各位车迷朋友们，大家下午好，欢迎收看国际汽联亚洲三级方程式锦标赛零路战的现场直播。那么即将开始的这场比赛呢，是我们2019赛季的第7回合正赛，这也是一场非常有意义的比赛。这是我们锦标赛首次来到日本，也是我们首次来到这条历史悠久、非常经典的 F1 日本大奖赛的举办地。那么首秀会有怎样精彩的表现？让我们持续关注。百丽。
Hello and welcome to live coverage of Round 3 of the Formula 3 Asian Championship, certified by FIA. We are now in Japan at the famed Suzuka circuit. The very first time Formula 3 comes to Japan, and this famous 5.8 kilometers long figure 8 circuit. The action is just minutes away, so please stay with us.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit in Japan for the third event of the 2019 F3 Asian Championship certified by FIA. Conditions absolutely beautiful. In fact, the sun's come out for the first time in the last couple of days. Was threatening rain over these last few days. Nothing like it right now. And this could catch some of the teams out. That said, experience will count. Experience, which will see the local driver, Ukyo Sasahara, who will start this race from pole position again for the High-Tech Grand Prix team, alongside his teammate and title rival, Jack Doohan. This will set up race number 7 of 15 for the 2019 season. Suzuka Circuit, what an iconic place to compete in this championship for every young driver. This is exactly the kind of circuit they want to have to be able to challenge themselves across what is just on 5.8 kilometres in journey. So it is not too far away from a start, and we will see what the teams are able to deliver. So we have on screen, that is Jack Doohan. Now what's interesting, his father Mick Doohan, 5-time 500cc Grand Prix motorcycle champion, won here twice, once in 1992, once in 1997. Can Jack Doohan continue that family tradition? There is the number 21 entry. That will be interesting across this event. And we go down through the order. That is Petr Tarček, the Czech driver with an Italian license, driving for the 7GP team. He qualified strongly. In fact, he qualified on top in the second leg of qualifying this morning. He's put himself right in the box seat. The 16-year-old driver on his debut. There's been an influx of 16-year-old drivers. We'll get to them as we go down the grid. There is the number 30 entry. And that is Kyoto Fujinami, an experienced campaigner. Of course, it's no real surprise the Japanese have come into this round and been very, very competitive. The number 5 on screen, that is Daniel Cow. Of course, the colours, the pink flex, the fluoro pink flex, and gunmetal grey of Absolute Racing. His teammate, Ishan Pires, is a little bit further back than we expect. He's back in position number 10, but again, this is the debut for this championship here on the Suzuka circuit. 1 minute board goes up. And of course, this is a very tight circuit, very demanding circuit. This is what many drivers term as old school F1 design. This isn't a modern day Herman Tilke designed circuit with lots of wide runoff. In fact, we've seen over the course of just today in the drying conditions, it was very wet this morning before we arrived at the circuit, a little slippery through some of the practice sessions. By the time we got to qualifying, 15-minute session for Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. Didn't get 5 minutes in, and we'd had 3 red flag periods. Took 45 minutes to complete a 15-minute qualifying session. We went into the opening qualifying for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia and saw one of the cars upside down over the back of the circuit. So it really has been very, very testing. 130R has lived up to its name as being one of the most difficult circuits around the world, and that has claimed a number of victims into the barriers quite hard over the course of the last 2 or 3 days. So it is a great circuit. It has a great history, and it will continue to add to that history this weekend. What can these budding young stars of the future add to the equation this weekend? Now, for those rivals to Sasahara, it's going to be very, very interesting. He is also doing double duty this year, Porsche Carrera Cup Japan. He is the championship points leader. There he is on pole position alongside Jack Doohan. And he's come off the most recent round right here at Suzuka Circuit with back-to-back wins in a Carrera Cup car. There is Petr Tarcek on his debut alongside Jordan Dempsey. Good to see him back in the championship because he's been very strong in F4 in this part of the world. Kyoto Fujinami alongside Daniel Cow, who started the very first round of the 2019 season all the way back at Sepang in March from pole position. He's been on the podium a number of times. Tomoki Takahashi, another of the local drivers for Super License. He will start from the inside of the 4th row. Finished 5th in the championship, the debut championship for the F3 Asian Championship last year. Jackson Walls, another 16-year-old from Australia, done a little bit of F4 work. Brendan Leach, who's been very strong. He had a tough run in qualifying. It may have been down at the hairpin. He came off on the outside in the opening qualifying session, lost the front wing, lost time, valuable time in pit lane. And he regrouped for Q2, but the young New Zealander got a bit of work to do. Akash Gowda, the all-blue entry further back in the field. Takashi Hata, he is back in the championship, in the Super License entry, alongside Thomas Ludi for the Black Arts Racing team. Of course, he is one of the Masters entries, alongside Paul Wong, who is leading the championship. But he's leading the Masters Championship more by virtue of the fact that Thomas Ludi, who's been a mainstay in the development formula of open wheelers in this part of the world over recent years, has had such tough luck this year. We saw him at Buriram recently, stopped in at least 2 of the 3 races. It's very hard to build a championship battle or a championship lead or a championship rivalry when you're sitting by the side of the circuit. So Paul Wong currently leads the Masters Cup on 1:16. Such has been the bad luck for Thomas Ludi. He is in 4th place on just 43 points. Traditionally the faster of those 2 drivers. And he will be keen to try and mount a recovery over the second half of this season, because we get to the mid part of the year. It started at Sepang in Malaysia back in April, not March. I was a month out. Chang International Circuit in Thailand, Buriram. We were last there on the 10th to 12th of May for races 4 to 6. This is races 7 to 9 this weekend. By the time we finish the second race mid-afternoon tomorrow, we will be into the second half of the 15-race season. Shanghai International Circuit in China, the home of the Chinese Formula 1 Grand Prix, will fold out this season. Drivers will come to a stop on the line. We have seen both Duan and Sasahara very, very impressive off the standing starts in the rounds to date. So far they share the victories. In fact, they share the top 2 steps of the podium in all 6 races this season. They've been 1-2 or 2-1, depending on how you want to look at it. Duan, 2 wins. Sasahara has 4 wins. He leads the championship 136 to 122. They're light years ahead of Daniel Cow for Absolute Racing, back in position 3. 65 points. Very close. His teammate, Ashampira, 64 points. Brendan Leach, also 64 points. That is the black and pink Black Arts Racing machine. We'll start from the 5th row. Sasahara, this is one of his home circuits. A local Japanese driver doing double duty this year, open wheelers and GT competition with Porsche Carrera Cup Japan, where he is his home country's rising young star, backed by Porsche Japan. And he is leading that championship after 3 wins this year and 2 wins just recently at Suzuka Circuit. Moving into place, that was Daniel Cow. He will be hoping to regroup and build some more valuable championship points. He's been on the podium 3 times in season 2019. Expect to see the green flag at the rear of the field. Brendan Leach on the podium just twice, but of course all 6 races it has been Sasahara and Duan. It has pretty much been off the line where the race has been won. Duan a rookie here, Sasahara an experienced hand. Will that matter as the lights go to red? Once they're out, we're underway with race number 7 of the 2019 season. The field further back, there was, contact! That looks like the 2 Super License, the local team, have taken each other out. That was unfortunate. One of them stalled. That may well have been further back, and Takahashi, unfortunately, after running strongly, he was very strong at Buriram, 5th last year in the opening season of the F3 Asian Championship, as Duan has taken the lead. He's got the jump on his teammate, but I'd expect will come straight under safety car conditions. Seen a little bit of that this year so far. That was just an unfortunate incident, and that may well have been Takashi Hata has gone into the back of his teammate. What has happened further behind that as we go up to the top end of the circuit. That is Denga 2 coming through now. Yep, there is the safety car. Lights are on. Turn 9. The crossover, considered a figure 8 circuit. Doesn't look too much like an 8 if you look at it on a map. But the point being it crosses back over itself. That is one of the highlights of this old school circuit. The hairpin, very, very tight. A little off camber on the exit. It is very much a challenge to these young drivers, exactly what they want to have to build their careers. Very experienced safety crew will very quickly tidy this up. Let's take a look at a replay of exactly what happened off the start. Right of screen, Sasahara. How good was that starter doing? Look further back, and you can see that the 2 super license entries, well, Harter was grabbing gears and starting to focus eyes forward. He might have been looking at the way he got off the line and hadn't noticed until the very last second. His teammate was stalled on the grid in front of him, and that has eliminated both those cars. That's not a great start to Harter's return. We saw a little bit of him last year, but that won't have a big impact to the championship. But what will have a big impact to the championship is 7 points. If they finish this way, we've got a long way to go, of course, 30 minutes plus 1 lap for the leader. So once the clock ticks down, that next lap will be the final lap for the race leader. And Doohan, well, currently the lead is 14 points. They've got to within 7 previously. Doohan won race 2 at Buriram. Sasahara returned the favour with the victory in race 6. That extended the lead back to 14 points. It's seesawed between the two of them this year. Now, while Sasahara has been in his home country here in Japan, turning miles, which is valuable when you come to a circuit like this that does rely very much on experience, Doohan has been over in Europe. And he has so far, check back to the notes, he's of course been racing the 2019 Euro Formula Open Series. And just recently he's come back from Spa. So after 6 rounds and with 10 to go, he is 6th in the championship. He was 2nd at Hockenheim outright, which was super impressive from the young Red Bull-backed athlete. And he was 4th twice at Spa most recently, one of the most difficult circuits in the world, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. He's built a solid haul of points. He was top rookie in the most recent round, so he's proving his worth here again this weekend. Has been very, very convincing throughout the course of the season. Here is the restart. Now look right of screen. Takashi has stalled, Harter's behind him, and it looked like he hadn't noticed his teammate at all. Paul Wong just avoiding the two of them, fortunately, and that's not what the local super license team needed. I'll be a tad frustrated with that. I spoke to Rio Fukuda. Of course, he's a former test driver for the BAR Honda F1 team, a huge sensation in his home country. F3 star, major open wheel contender in Asia. He is overseeing that team, and he said it's coming along quite well. They're expecting some more out of Takahashi this year, but unfortunately for him, this is race 7 of 15. He will take no further part in this race as we circulate behind the safety car. Clock is still ticking, that's one thing. And there's the number 44 entry of Paul Wong, the Masters Cup runaway points leader. Thanks very much to the unfortunate mishaps led by Thomas Ludi. He's often been well down the road from Paul Wong. Invariably, camera shot goes back to his car parked on the side of the circuit. It's been cleaned up in a couple of incidents through no fault of his own. And that's a tough way to compete for the Hong Kong-based driver. Paul Wong, of course, also based in Hong Kong, racing for the 852 Challengers team. He's also doing double duty. There he is on screen doing double duty in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. A good mix of platforms. Can be a big challenge too, though, for some of these drivers. Brendan Leach also competing in that championship. Of course, you're going from a car that doesn't have the aero of the F3. Certainly a lot heavier, a lot more horsepower. You're talking about 270 horsepower, 350 newton meters of torque that the Alfa Romeo ATM ARF3R engine puts out in these cars. Of course, weight is very, very different. You're talking about somewhere akin to 650 kilos whereas the modern GT cars are somewhere near double that. So Paul Wong's got a little bit of difficulty, well, not difficulty, it's more of a challenge for him to actually jump from one to the other. There's a little bit of space on the program this weekend, which is helpful, especially when you're recovering cars from the tyre barriers quite regularly. The crew down at 130R have had plenty of practice in recovering cars across the course of the weekend. We don't want to see any more of that. That unfortunate incident off the start of the race, that does happen, especially in the case of a standing start. We don't see a lot of standing starts these days, but certainly this is the follow-through to F1. Formula 4, the transition to Formula 3 to Formula 2, and ultimately through to Formula 1 for those drivers lucky enough or capable enough of going all the way to the elite levels of open wheel competition. Of course, the point system mirrors that of F1, so too does the starting procedure. There are a number of similarities, and to have these drivers come to yet another of the F1 circuits in the region, because we visit China, Malaysia, Sepang International Circuit, China, Shanghai International Circuit, Buriram, of course, used by MotoGP. It's very much the style of circuits these guys are used to. One thing they're not used to, and we talked about at the start of the program, this is an old school style F1 circuit. That effectively means is very little margin for error. Not a lot of runoff. There's Doohan leading. What's going on here? We're going to stop on the main straight. They seem to be angling towards that. Maybe just the safety car has dropped the pace right down. Light's still on. Clock's still ticking. Well, this works out very, very well for Jack Doohan. In fact, it works out quite nicely for the field that have got two sets of the controlled GT competition GTR1 control tyre. Now, a very hard compound tyre. Some of the young drivers have said, you could use the word complain, but certainly have said the car is heavy. It is a little bit more physical to drive. The grip levels aren't there of a super soft tyre. They don't have the aero necessarily of some of the higher formula. They have a heavier weight. A lot of that is built around the protection systems in the car. Of course, this was the first of the F3 championships to adopt the Halo, which is a safety initiative. They have much heavier side intrusion bars. Of course, that has had an impact on this championship over the last 18 months or so. Fact is, all the cars are identical. It shouldn't be an easy formula for a young emerging driver to jump into. Coming out of karts, which is also very physical, relies a lot on mechanical grip. You jump into one of these things, you're relying an awful lot, same as F4, on aero grip, slick tyres. You are starting to develop your experience from F4 to F3, from F3 to F2, and ultimately, again, if you're lucky enough to get all the way through to Formula 1. So if it is a bit heavier, if the grip level isn't there, I guess that means bad luck, doesn't it? It means you have to adapt your driving style in order to make the most out of that. Something that Yukio Sasahara, a very experienced Japanese campaigner, has done very well this year. But when you consider that Sasahara at 23 years of age is competing against his teammate Jack Doohan at just 16 years of age, there's a big difference there. And Doohan is showing his mettle well and truly. Of course, can take a lot out of the experience that his father had. 5-time 500cc motorcycle Grand Prix champion. A household name in Australia, and young Jack is proving to be every bit the star that his father was, but in his own right and on four wheels. So good to see him doing a good job. Nice too to see Jackson Walls come across, young driver who's not long graduated out of go-karts through to open wheelers. He's gone into F4 in Australia and been quite competitive. Tony Walls, his father, competes regularly as a semi-pro in GT competition. So there is a little heritage in the family there too of motorsport competition, let's face it. That's where a lot of us get our passion for motorsport. And he is turning some very good miles. In fact, he got a good start. Jackson Walls in qualified down in position 9. He's currently in position number 6. So if we run through the order, Jack Doohan leads from his teammate Yukio Sasahara. Jordan Dempsey in position 3. Got the jump on Petr Tarcek. So that was a good start for Dempsey. He's up to position number 3 for the Pinnacle Motorsport team. Daniel Cow in position number 5. He started in position number 6. Jackson Walls, as we say, is position number 7. 6, I'll put my teeth in. Kyoto Fujinami in position number 7. From Kuai Yu, the Chinese driver, back in position 8. Brendan Leach has jumped a position. He's up to 9th ahead of Isham Pires. Of course, there wasn't much ground made up in that run down to turn 1. We're very quickly under safety car conditions for that incident between the two super licensed team. drivers. Unfortunately for them, they are both retirements. Tomoki Takahashi and Takashi Hata made contact after Takahashi stalled, it seemed, on the grid. One of the vagaries of standing starts is that can very much play into the equation. Akash Gowda, the all-blue entry, back in position number 11. Tommy Smith just recently turned 17. So he's becoming a veritable veteran against the 16-year-olds in the field this weekend. Miki Kiyama in position 13. She's currently 7th in the new W Series. Has been running very strongly as that championship has emerged over in Europe. Thomas Liudi in position number 14, leading the Masters battle. No, he's not. In fact, that's my error. We go back to... Oh, no, sorry. Takashi Hata is a retirement, so of course Thomas Liudi is leading the Masters. Immediately behind him, that all-blue entry of Paul Wong. They are positions 14 and 15. Fastest lap so far, which means absolutely nothing right now to Petr. So, still under safety car conditions. What's going to happen here is, at this speed, and it has been dropped right back, the tyre temperature has all but disappeared. So the drivers with experience and keep a close eye on the number 1 entry of Ukyo Sasahara may be in the box seat. He can put that to good use. Doing a rookie here before this weekend, you wouldn't have known it by the time we got to practice. Free practice results saw Jack Doohan on top with a 58.65. He qualified with a 58.10. By contrast, his teammate, Ukyo Sasahara, well, he was over the 2-minute mark, so he was well off the pace. Clearly wasn't too worried, came out in qualifying and turned in the top lap, 3/10 up on his teammate in the end. Petr really doing an impressive job on his debut to jump up to position 3 and then move one step better and go on to take pole position for race 3. So qualifying 1 sets the grid for race 1. Qualifying 2 sets the grid for race 3 of the weekend. So that's races 7 and 9 in the championship. The first race up tomorrow, which will come at, I have a note here right in front of me somewhere, 9:35 a.m. local time here in Japan, will be set by the fastest lap times for each driver in this race. Just evens things up a little bit just to see how things play out. See the drivers weaving as much as they can just to get a little bit of tyre temperature. Now, they need to be a little bit careful because there can be rules with respect to how long and how far you can take that weaving. Recently caught out almost half the field in Porsche Carrera Cup Asia when they were, I think it was right here at Suzuka, as it turns out. May have been the Fuji round, but getting too carried away with keeping the tyres warm. And the teams will be doing what they can to make sure that temperature is maintained. Almost half the race over, and we've had about 4 or 5 corners of racing. Word from the pits is both the super licensed drivers are okay after that impact. I think a little bit of speed was washed off from Hata by the time he ran into the back of Takahashi. Again, if you've missed it, you've just joined us, welcome. This is race 7 of 15 for season 2019, the second year of the F3 Asian Championship, certified by FIA. Off the line, unfortunately, Takahashi, who ran very, very strongly. He was very impressive in the early laps at Buriram last time out. He stalled on the grid, or so it seemed. He certainly didn't get any drive. Something may have broken in the car. And a little unsighted by his teammates. You've got to remember you're sitting very, very low. Your backside not too far above the race circuit in the position you're in. You're sitting very low, looking across the nose of the car. Car immediately in front of him moved around his teammate. And Takashi Hata, unfortunately, drove straight into the back of the number 6 entry, number 7 entry, and that put both the 7 and 8 out. Too many numbers listed. One of those numbers, of course, is the ages of the drivers. If we run through those really quickly, Sasahara 23, Doohan 16, Jordan Dempsey 18, Kwa Yu 18, Daniel Cow 17. Takahashi is 21. Takashi Hata, a veteran, in all senses of the word at 44. Thomas Ludi, 48. Isham Pires, 20. Tommy Smith just recently, earlier this week, I think, turned 17. Jackson Walls, 16. Fujinami is 24, an experienced campaigner in Super Taikyu, Super GT and GT 300. Has run in the 24-hour races in Japan, been quite successful, won at Fuji a couple of times. Akash Gowda, 20 years of age. Paul Wong, a little older. Won't get into that one. Peter Tarchek, 16. Brendan Leach, a veteran when it comes to his rivals here at 23. And Miki Kiyama, just 21 years of age. We go around again. The clock has ticked under half of the race. Not wearing out his tyres. And it sounds like the safety car may well be in at the end of this lap. Now, that's good news for everybody watching on. Nothing worse than listening to me prattle, but nothing worse than watching cars circulating a circuit as beautiful as Suzuka circuit behind the safety car. We want to see racing. And that's how these drivers are going to build on their careers, is to get out there and go hard and race and compete and drive against each other on the absolute limit. That's what we want to see. That's what this is all about. And we want to see some of that action get underway as we get into race 7 of 15 this year. Tomorrow will be the midpoint of the season. And at the moment, it has been very much down to high-tech Grand Prix. They're also competing this weekend overseas. They are running in the FIA Formula 3 Championships. Only been one round so far. They're at Paul Ricard in France this weekend. After Catalonia, they're sitting third in the Teams Championship. Only had one round out of 6 or so. One event out of 6 this year. So they'll be keeping a close eye on things on the other side of the world a little bit later today. But here, right now, this is the second season of the F3 Asian Championship certified by the FIA. This is race 7 of 15, and we're desperate to get this race underway. Just on probably about 11 minutes to go in this race, and we want to see some action. It's about 5, maybe 6 laps if we're lucky for the race leader, provided, of course, we don't see any more of the drama that has pretty much riddled this weekend. From opening practice, that saw one of the highest ranked drivers in Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia, Wei Ron Tan, a Malaysian driver who was a winner in LMP2 last season. DC Jackie Chan Racing had an issue at 130R, wound up parked at 45 degrees to the fence, a couple of wheels in the air. That wasn't a great start. Recovered from that. Great work by the Absolute Racing team, who are here running multiple cars in both these championships. They recovered the car, wasn't too much damage, repaired it, and Martin Rump, Wei-Ron Tan's teammate, just earlier today went out and set pole position for the opening race, which will take place a little bit later this afternoon, a couple of hours' time, so stay with us. We're losing a little bit more time, but the clock is ticking. As you can see, middle of the screen, just on 11 minutes to go in this race. And we have had just a few corners as the safety car, that beautiful Honda, spears off the circuit. And Sashihara weaving, so too Doohan. Doohan leading the field at the moment. What can the young Australian do? He needs to recover from this point. He'll have good tyre life. They can push hard, and he's into it. We are not too far away from starting what will be lap number 5, which is pretty sad when we're 20 minutes into this race. Australia's Jack Doohan leads through the chicane. That's a very famous part of this circuit because we've seen action there. Names like Senna and Prost will ring a few bells when you go back into the history books. But this is Jack Doohan, the son of 5-time 500cc Grand Prix champion Mick Doohan, the Australian, leading Ukyo Sashihara, the leader, a 2-time winner this year of Carrera Cup Japan. He is the points leader of the F3 Asian Championship, and High Tech Grand Prix continue their domination of this championship. They are 1-2. They have a third entry for this weekend. That is Jackson Walls. Walls back in position number 6. One to keep an eye on, the 21 entry, Peter Tarchek. He was listed as entry 77. That's what's thrown me completely out. He's now entry number 21. He is one to keep a close eye on. His pace has been very impressive. He set the fastest qualifying time in the second leg of qualifying this morning, and that will play a big part if he can get himself off the line for tomorrow afternoon's 9th race of the season. 3 entry of Jordan Dempsey. An Irish driver back in position number 3. Qualified in position 4 for Pinnacle Motorsport. Got the jump on Tarcek. Doesn't seem to be able to stick with him just at the moment. Ooh, yeah, Tarcek, no. Well, he's run completely off the circuit. Very similar colours to the Haas F1 team. Rich energy, black and gold. As Doohan has done a brilliant job so far, almost the full lap around. This is where he started his charge back through. Let's see what the pace is like for the young Australian. It's going to take 2-3 laps to get optimum working temperature into those controlled GT tyres as Tarcek's gone down the inside into the start of the chicane. What's been the upshot of that? Did Dempsey leave the door open? Have they made contact? Let's take a long shot. Oh, Dempsey's dropped back now to position 5. That's Daniel Cow. The Absolute Racing driver has pulled past him. He's moved to the inside because he knows this aero, he's punching a hole in the air for Jordan Dempsey to perhaps make an assault down to turn 1, close the door again through to turn 2. Double right-hander. And now into the S's. Turns 3, 4, 5, 6, into turn 7. Dunlop curve, the famous Dunlop curve. Into the Degner curves. Degner 1, Degner 2. And then under the bridge and down to the hairpin. Coming through Dunlop curve there. That is Tarcek back into position 3. He's taken Dempsey as it got into chicane. Dempsey now under fire from Jackson Walls, the 3rd of the high-tech Grand Prix entries. The young Australian driver doing a great job. Here we are talking effectively about lap 3 of racing in this race. We've got just 7 minutes of the 30-minute race left. Jordan Dempsey has had some experience around this part of the world. He, of course, is the Chinese F4 champion of 2018, makes his progression into the F3 championship. Driving for Pinnacle Motorsport. He's going to be under fire from Jackson Walls very, very quickly in the objective machine. There's Doohan doing what he has done each time he's managed to get ahead of his teammate. He had to battle his way past. Usually it has been the driver who's Brendan Leach there on screen, the young New Zealander who was on the podium in Buriram. Unfortunately, at one stage, charging through, he had a failure in the car that threw him very heavily into the barriers. That has had a big impact on his championship assault. Currently 5th in championship points. Just a single point behind Daniel Cow in position number 3. Equal on points with Isham Pires. And if he can get ahead of those drivers, that will move him forward in the championship. At the moment, he's ahead of Pires. He's still back in position number 10. He's got Kyoto Fujinami, who's a strong competitor around this circuit. As traditionally, we were just talking about, off the line. The race results been very much set, perhaps by team orders. High-Tech Grand Prix, very experienced operation, now have a base at Sepang circuit in Malaysia, building a strong presence here in Asia, as Absolute Racing have done over many, many years. Fabian Fior, Ingo Mata, been in this part of the world for a long time, built Absolute Racing into a powerhouse, certainly in GT competition, been heavily involved in the development of young drivers through open wheel competition, very strong in this championship, but High-Tech Grand Prix have had a lot of experience with these cars, so far have been dominant. Go back to season 2018, Rail Hyman and Jake Hughes were 1-2 in the championship. Jake Hughes just 2 points off winning that championship. He won every race he contested, missed 2 complete rounds of 5, and still managed to come through in second. Jaden Conright racing for Absolute Racing last year. Charles Leong, the 3rd of the High-Tech GP entries last year, the man from Macau. And Tomoki Takahashi came through in position 5 in last year's championship. This is 2019. This is the 2nd season of the F3 Asian Championship certified by the FIA. And this has very much been the way the story has been written in season 2019. High-Tech Grand Prix 1-2. Traditionally, the driver who has got the jump off the line has gone on to take victory. Doohan, well, he upset that script a little bit last time out in Buriram, managed to work his way past Sasahara. Maybe he didn't follow the team orders. Maybe he just had better drive, was able to make the most of his start, got past his Japanese teammate and went on to take his second win of the year. Good battle further back. It's Jackson Walls. No, that's Brendan Leach. So Walls has got ahead of Dempsey, it seems. And now Brendan Leach. That will move him up into position number 7. It shows Jordan Dempsey still ahead of Jackson Walls. So that's Leach ahead of Walls. Okay, so there's been a slight change. I'm watching the monitor. I should be watching the screen. It's Daniel Cow, Jordan Dempsey, Brendan Leach now in position number 6. Jackson Walls in position number 7. So far, fastest lap, Jack Doohan. That sets him up for pole position for tomorrow morning's race, 9:35 a.m. Japanese local time. Been told in the week leading up we would be heavy thunderstorms on both Saturday and Sunday. A little bit of rain last night to start the day off. Locked left front for Jordan Dempsey. That shouldn't worry him too much. Brendan Leach a little bit of oversteer as he got onto the gas hard. Really throwing that car around. Black Arts Racing driver. Got some solid support from the team down there in pit lane. So far has really been dragging this team forward. Based out of Zhuhai in China, just across the Pearl River from Hong Kong. Traditionally been the home for the Hong Kong drivers. First permanent facility in China. Longest serving permanent facility in China. A little bit further back in the field. No, we're not. We're right at the front of the field. That is Jack Doohan leading Ukyo Sasahara. 2 minutes 22 to go. Could well be 2 more laps in this race. It is 30 minutes plus the next lap to the leader across the line. I think we will still have time on the clock by the time that Doohan gets back around. He can't afford to leave off. 2:01.239 last lap round. 2 minute dead. 6:88. They qualified in the 156s, 157s. So Sahara's pole time for this race, 157.811. Petatacek back into position number 3. He's 6 seconds down from the race leader as Brendan Leach takes Jordan Dempsey for position 5. Young New Zealander also doing double duty with Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. So he is getting some serious miles around this circuit, and this is a circuit that does reward laps. Oh, you can see how much the car's moving around. He set it up quite loose, often loose as fast. At the moment, that's working well for Brendan Leach, although his best lap, 2:01.72, second driver in the 2:0, sorry, the only driver in the 2:01. So at the moment, the grid, oh, that is the number 16 entry. And unfortunately, that is not what we wanted to see for Tommy Smith. He was just on the tail end of the top 10. Where's that? Is that down at the S's? We might soon see. Doohan running wide. His compatriot sitting in the gravel. This will be second last lap. Fastest lap to Jack Doohan, a 2 minutes 6:88, 2 minutes 7:03. So just about, what's that, 15 1,000ths difference between the two high-tech Grand Prix teammates, but in favour of Jack Doohan. Sasahara will be pushing as hard as he can. Tyres will be just on their peak, or maybe just a tad over. What can the local star do as we come to the line? Can he improve that and give himself pole, that all-important pole position? No, he can't. 2:01.4. Lost the limit of the tyre. We should be on the last lap of this race. The next fastest driver, we were talking about him, was Brendan Leach, 2:01.726. He will start race number 2 here tomorrow morning, race 8 of the season, from position number 3. Next up, I would expect, would be Daniel Cow, 2:02.07, 2:02.15 for Petatacek. He will start race 3 from pole, but looks like he will start from position 5 for tomorrow's second race. Jackson Walls, 2:02.175, so immediately behind or immediately beside Tarchek. As this battle at the front of the field goes on, 7/10 of a second. That is Tarchek on screen. Car 21. Daniel Cow has caught him up too. There's not too much in this. 2:02.07. Daniel Daniel Cow's last lap, very impressive. 2:02.073, 2:02.070 from Brendan Leach. Their positions 3 and 4 for tomorrow. 3 1,000ths of a second between the two of them. So Daniel Cow got the best of that last lap. He's trying to close in on Tatuus. 4/10 of a second. May not be able to do it, but at the moment, situation normal for the 7th time this season. 1-2 to High Tech Grand Prix. If he crosses the line as the race winner for the 3rd time this season in 7 races, that will be Jack Doohan takes position 1. Ukyo Sasahara takes position number 2. 3rd at the moment, 7 seconds back from this battle is Tarchek. Daniel Cow immediately behind. Brendan Leach closing, he's 2 seconds back. I don't think you're going to see much change there. Very little in the difference between the laps. About 3/10 in favour of Brendan Leach last time round. As he comes to the line, we should see the checkered flag. Win number 3 for the season. Another victory for a Doohan here at Suzuka Circuit. Jack Doohan takes his first win 22 years after his father last won here on a 500cc motorcycle for Honda. Ukyo Sasahara drops his championship points advantage to just 7 points now over his teammate as a result of that race. Doohan also takes pole position for tomorrow's second race, race 8 of 15 for the season. Tatuus on his debut in the F3 Asian Championship takes position number 3 from Daniel Cow, Brendan Leach, Jordan Dempsey, Jackson Walls, Kyoto Fujinami, Isham Pires made up to position number 9. Kwa Yu in position number 10, Akash Gowda position 11, Miki Kiyama up to position 12. Thomas Liudi takes top honours, regains some points to Paul Wong, who comfortably leads the Masters Cup. Wong across the line in position number 14. Tommy Smith we saw just a couple of laps ago in the gravel. He'd come off the circuit, the young Australian driver, so unfortunately no more points for him. And Tomoki Takahashi Hata had that contact off the standing start, which saw us spent almost 20 minutes behind the safety car as they cleaned the cars off the field. That was a frustration for the teams, but when the racing got underway, we got about 6 laps in, and Jack Doohan took his second win of the year. Nice result after his twin 4th place finishes at Spa, last time out in the 2019 Euro Formula Open. That closes the advantage down to Sasahara, so Doohan, I would expect, will be on 147 points. His teammate will be on 154 points. Daniel Cow, well, it's valuable points for him because Tarchek, this is his first appearance in 6 races so far, so he adds to his championship tally. He'll take 15 points. Daniel Cow will take 12. Moves him on to 77, but that's well down on the battle at the top of the championship points table. Thomas Liudi, well down, unfortunately, on Paul Wong in the Masters Cup for High Tech Grand Prix, who are runaway leaders in the teams championship, the standings. Came into this round on 258 to 127 for Absolute Racing. Black Arts Racing, they're on 76 in 3rd position. And they will be aided by that charge from position 10 by Brendan Leach up to position number 5. We hope to hear from Feline down there on the grid from the race winner at some stage shortly. Then we will go through to the podium. If you stick with us before too much longer, we will also see some action from the 3rd event of the season for the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. That should be a sterling race, 26-car field. And stay with us again for race 8 of the season, which will highlight the midpoint of the 2nd season of the F3 Asian Championship, certified by FIA. That will come at 9:35 a.m. tomorrow morning, and at 3:25 p.m. tomorrow afternoon it will be race 9 of the season. This is the 3rd race weekend of season 2019. We go off to Shanghai International Circuit in China for double header events in September 6th to the 8th, races 10 to 12, and then we close out the season September 26th to 28 at Shanghai again for races 13 to 15. Is Jack Doohan celebrating with his team, and I'm sure we will see Mick Doohan down there at some point. So thanks for joining us. Stick with it. Keep up to date with f3asia.com. We'll see you tomorrow.